Good afternoon, Kah.
Good afternoon, Alice.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Happy 2026.
Thank you. So how do you feel with this 2026?
Listen, I feel good. I am in a very good place in my head and in my body, in my spirit. But the world is a very worrying place right now. And, you know, we are always worried about Africa. And when the world is in this kind of shape, it's challenging for Africa. So going into 2026 with good energy, but very aware that there are a lot of serious challenges ahead.
So you said that you are doing good.
Yes.
So I'm glad about it.
Yes.
Because we need your energy to start an important conversation
about
one topic that we explored in 2025. That is the illicit financial flow.
Yes.
So as a young African, since I was born, I've always heard about Africa's potential. But I do not see this potential reflected in my life. And I think it is also the case of other young Africans. But we also notice that we are highly dependent on external aid. So according to you, with your experience of the world, what could be the blind spot in this situation?
So for Africa, as you have said, we have a lot of potential. We have a lot of resources. Africa is rich. Africans are poor. So it's a real gap there between the resources that we have as a continent and our ability to collect those resources and actually use them for development. And that's where illicit financial flows come in, because illicit financial flows represents the money that leaves Africa, the capital that leaves Africa. And believe you, Alice, we are talking about 60 to 90 billion with a B, dollars every year leaving the African continent to go to other destinations. This is more than, you talked about aid. Illicit financial flows are more than the aid that Africa receives. They are more than the foreign direct investment that our continent receives. So this is a very serious conversation. It's a very serious issue for us, because we have resources, we are making money as a continent, and we are allowing that money to escape from our continent and to not be used for our development. And then we turn around and go begging for money from other places.
So you talked about a paradox, that we have the money, or we produce the money, but this money is flowing out of our continent. So concretely, what does it mean? How can we interpret it?
So this money flows out of our continent in three ways. The first one is through commercial transactions and what we call misinvoicing, transfer pricing. This means that legitimate companies, many of them multinational companies, are not declaring the full amount of their sales, for example, so that they don't pay taxes fully on it, are transferring funds to other parts of the world. They use the regulatory framework, which has some loopholes, to be able to avoid actually spending that money here in Africa. The second means is that is corruption. Corruption is, we know that it exists. And then the third means is money laundering. But the commercial transactions represent about 65%.
I would like to understand what are the consequences of these illicit financial flows for the lives of citizens? Because we know that it does not translate into their lives, but how concretely?
Very concretely, this means that we have less money for African development. So this is money that could build roads. This is money that could provide electricity. This is money that could build hospitals. This is money that we would not need to go to a donor for. Because, you know, with donors, when you go there, they have their own conditions. They have their own ways of demands that they're going to make upon you. So this is a way for us to be more autonomous, more sovereign. You know, we like that word in Africa. Sovereignty is about having your own resources and making up your own objectives.
As a young African, I'm not reassured by what the situation that you are describing.
Yes.
But I would like to be hopeful. Do we have any initiatives or solutions that could provide a better condition for Africans?
You can imagine that the question of illicit financial flows is a question which preoccupies African decision makers right from the continental level all the way to local governments. So there are a lot of people who have been working on this. That is the good news. The other good news is that several things have been tried and tested and had success. There are countries that, I'll give the example of Morocco, that has succeeded through its legislature and through building capacity of its institutions to decrease illicit financial flows by 40%, very significant for the country. So the areas of work are what? There are 5 key areas of work. Number 1 is regulation, regulatory frameworks. That means the law, the procedures, the systems that are involved in terms of collecting public finances, ensuring that for public finances are not misused, that misinvoicing is not going on, and stopping illicit financial flows. A second pillar is modernizing tax, customs, and their institutions. You know that many Africans do not pay tax, and it is not, I don't think Africans are less willing than any other citizen in the world to pay tax, but our tax institutions are cumbersome. They are corrupt. They are not very efficient and effective. So citizens find it, even if you want to pay your tax, it's a difficult task to calculate the tax. So and to actually make the payment. So we need to modernize, we need to digitalize, we need to make our taxation customs more transparent, easier to use, more efficient. Another area of work is enhancing transparency and public financial governance as a whole.
Okay.
This is my favorite area of work because I think that if we want to, because stopping illicit financial flows is about what? It is about mobilizing resources for the country. And if we mobilize resources, if we get citizens to pay more tax, if we get companies to stop misinvoicing, there must be a counterpart. People have to see roads, they have to see electricity, they have to see garbage being picked up. These are the things that are part of good financial governance as a whole. You collect, but then you also have quality of the spending of public money so that citizens can see. And you also have transparency in that spending. You have transparency in public contracts, in government contracts. You have transparency in accounting, so that people know this is how much money the government has collected, this is what they have done for it, and I can see, I can touch, I can feel the service that that money is producing. Then another pillar is international cooperation. If we talk about illicit financial flows, it means the money is leaving here and it's going somewhere else. So we need to cooperate with the destinations, those tax havens where people are going to hide that money, the places where the money is going to be laundered, the places where corrupt money is going. We need international cooperation. No country can fight illicit financial flows alone. So we need international cooperation. And I would say that here the African Union is really has some interesting initiatives, interesting ideas on especially taxation at a global level that could be very beneficial for Africa. The fifth pillar is promoting financial inclusion and technological innovation. Financial inclusion, what do we mean here? In Africa, many of our economies are 80, some 90% informal. And what happens in the informal economy? I am a market trader in Cameroon. I meet my fellow market trader, Alice, who is going to Gabon, and I give her a phone call. Gabon, Alice, please buy for me X number of merchandise in Gabon. And Alice says, yeah, sure, but Kah, I need you to give my mother some money in Cameroon for her hospital bill. We have just conducted a financial transaction. It's nowhere in the financial system. It is nowhere. It's not going to be taxed. It is not going to be traced. We are not going to pay taxes on it. You know, so we have a lot that is happening in our informal economy, which escapes the formal systems. So we need to strengthen formality. But strengthening formality, as I said earlier, is very much linked to what's in it for me. If you want me to formalize, if you want me to use the bank instead of using an informal system, what do I get out of it? Does it make me a stronger company? Does it enable me to win contracts, maybe with my local government? Or and do I see the services that this money is paying for? Do I have a better airport? Do I have a train to carry my goods? You know, so we need to improve inclusion, but we must know that inclusion goes with good financial governance as a whole. And we mentioned technology. Technology is very important because of speed and scale. Technology can help us very quickly to get better transparency. We can do public accounting through technology. So today we should be, as African citizens, able to go on our computers, tap, and know how much was the budget of the Ministry of Health, how much have they received, what have they done with it, right? And does that spending look good? Are they building a hospital at the right cost, or has somebody done overpricing in terms of building the hospital and my money is disappearing? You know, so technology can really help us in this process of illicit financial flows. These are the 5 areas where work is already being done.
So in these 5 areas, from my feeling, is that there is one actor which is really important, the state.
Yeah.
You mentioned it several times, the state which has to build and work on these 5 pillars. So this brings me to another concept that we have been exploring in previous discussions, which is state functionality. Please, can you take us through this concept?
Absolutely. So, state functionality is key to illicit financial flows. Stopping illicit financial flows means improving the functionality of the state. And here, when we are talking about the state, we want to talk about the state holistically. The executive, of course, we have the Ministry of Finance has to be more effective. Taxation has to be more effective. Customs has to be more effective. These are all the executive. They are key. But the other branches of government are also key. The other branches of the state. The legislature. We have mentioned that a big part of the problem is in the regulatory frameworks. There are legal loopholes. There are big gaps that allow people to get the capital flowing out. So we need to close those gaps, which means we need to have better regulations, we need to have better laws, and this is Parliament. This is the job of Parliament. But Parliament has another job. Parliament has the job to hold government to account. It is Parliament's job to ask the government. Let us take mining. This is an area where, unfortunately, there are a lot of illicit financial flows. Today, we are having reports that say some African countries are reporting that they sold about 30 kilos of gold. And a country, which is a buyer country, is reporting that it bought from that same country 50 tons of gold. That is a huge gap. That is a huge amount of public funds which have been disappeared. So it is Parliament's job, when it sees such reports, that can come from the media, they can come from governance institutions. I think this particular example I'm giving is coming from my country, Cameroon, and it is in an EITI report. So these kinds of NGOs that are responsible for transparency, for example, in the mining institution, they are key for the Parliament to pick up such a report and to then, in a parliamentary session, to demand account from government. Our public accounts committees, our finance committees in Parliament, whether it is the National Assembly, whether it is the Senate, whatever parliamentary body, need to do a much better job at holding government to account. The final actor within the state that is important is justice. And justice in this area of work, the most important institutions are the supreme audit institutions, right? So the supreme audit benches in supreme courts, they produce a report. I'm not telling you anything new. You worked on supreme audit institutions, but they produce reports on the accounts of government every year. They are producing an audit report. So it is important, one, that these audit reports become a lot more public. In many countries, these supreme audit institutions, they are quite effective. They are doing their reports, but the reports, they get put into a drawer somewhere. Action is not taken. Sometimes the public is not even informed, about this report. So government has to be very holistic. We, at the level of strategies, what we are bringing to the table is this approach of state functionality, which means that we want to look at the state holistically, and then we also want to look at the state with its other architects.
So you talked about one of the three architects.
Yes.
Because from what I know, we
Yes.
have three architects.
Yes.
So you talked about the states.
Yeah.
You explore the different branches of the state.
Yes.
So can you take us through the other two architects in this state functionality?
Absolutely. The second architect we can talk about is civil society. I've already mentioned them here and there. You have civil society, which is, I mentioned EITI, which is a transparency initiative in the mining sector. You have many of such associations that are tracking public funds and public expenditure. And their reports are extremely important in fighting against illicit financial flows. That's one category of civil society. Another category of civil society are the experts, chartered accountants, auditors, financial experts who have the expertise now that we need. Parliament needs expertise. Government needs expertise. You know, we need the people who actually know how to count the numbers, analyze them, and tell us what is actually happening on the basis of the reports. So the Association of Chartered Accountants, the Association of Auditors, unfortunately, they are often not partnering. They are not in partnership with government to ensure good financial governance as a whole and fight against illicit financial flows in particular. The third category I would mention is universities, researchers. We have really good expertise in Africa of people who are carrying out research, who are doing analyzing best practice, analyzing best cases across Africa, you know. So it is really, really important that when we are looking at fighting against financial flows, illicit financial flows, we tap into the African expertise, especially because this expertise in civil society is very often in contact with their peers across the continent and internationally. So they are drawing best practice from other African countries, but they are also drawing from Asia, from Latin America, from Europe. So, you know, we have a bank of expertise. That's the good news. You wanted hope. You wanted, you wanted something to count on. We do have the expertise to address this, problem. The third group we have mentioned is the third architect is business. It's private sector. So we have in Africa, I think we can talk about there are many categories of private sector, but there are two very important categories for illicit financial flows. One is multinationals. We have already talked about them.
It, yes.
They have a lot of they hire the expertise that I'm talking about, and sometimes they are hiring that expertise in order to be able to go through the loopholes. Right? So that's one category. The other category is the vast majority of enterprises which are in the informal sector. With both of these groups, government needs a carrot and a stick. The government needs to be able to develop controls, develop regulations, and enforce those regulations. Go and collect its money. Stop mispricing, transfer pricing, and misinvoicing, and so on. So government needs to be able to do that. Government needs to encourage formality, so bring those informal enterprises more and more towards the formal sector, where we can see their transactions, we can tax their transactions, we can collect the public funds that should be collected. That's the stick, but we need the carrot. And we have already said the carrot is good governance as a whole. You have to provide the environment for business to do business. We need infrastructure. We need the roads. We need the airports. We need the railroads to function. We need schools because businesses have to hire human resource, and that human resource should be well trained. We also need for taxation, customs, all administration that has to do with business to be fluid and efficient.
An enabling environment.
Exactly. That's the word. So the carrot is the enabling environment.
So you explained what we call state functionality and the three architects. My feeling is still that there is one architect which is really central, because you said civil society needs to cooperate with the state.
Yeah.
The private sector needs to cooperate with the state. So we are still with the state.
Yes.
So what are the questions that should guide our action in 2026?
Yeah. We got good experience in 2025. We understand the problem very, very well. We've identified the advantages we have in developing solutions. So as we develop these solutions for 2026, a couple of key questions. Number one, where is the holistic strategy of government? Key architect, it is the key architect in terms of fighting against illicit financial flows. Where is the holistic strategy? Not having one program here for customs because donor number one has said, I want to work with customs. Having another disconnected program over here for taxation because donor number two has said, I want to work with taxation. Having another disconnected program over there with parliament because donor number three has said, I want to work with parliament. No. Government needs to develop a holistic strategy and then fits the programs where it is working with donors, where it is financing itself into that strategy in such a way that government can then evaluate after a year and say, you know, we have this 5-year strategy. In year one, we should have reduced illicit financial flows by 10%. Have we done it? You know, and what worked? What didn't work? Where should we adjust? You know, so that we are really moving ahead strategically. So question number one is, where is the holistic strategy to fight against IFFs? Second key question is, who is championing the strategy? These disparate programs that I talk about, sometimes the champion is a low-level department somewhere with somebody who does not really have power. Stopping illicit financial flows, there's no question about it. It requires very strong political will. And very strong political will can only be implemented with people who actually hold power within the state. So that means that the champions are the ministries of finance, and within the ministry, maybe the minister themselves. They are within the presidencies of a country, and you know, somebody within the presidency who can take decisions, who can convene actors, who can bring the other architects around the table. And they need to play that role, not as people who are domineering, because ministries of finance, they have a tendency to domineer. Not as people who are domineering, but as facilitators. People, so the Ministry of Finance needs to be working with the president of the finance committee of the parliament. They need to be working with the Supreme Audit Institution and the head of the Supreme Audit Institution, so that they actually create synergy, create teamwork, because this teamwork is necessary to stop illicit financial flows. So question number two is, who is championing and how are they championing? Not to dominate the others, but to facilitate work and to facilitate synergy. Question number 3 is, we've mentioned it, where is your international strategy? Who are you cooperating with internationally? Illicit financial flows are being fought around the world. We are talking about Africa because we are Africans, but everybody is fighting against illicit financial flows. So who are your partners? How are you comparing information? How are you learning from others? How are you bringing your efforts and your resources together to actually stop these illicit financial flows? And the fourth and final question I would be asking is, what does the citizen say? Yeah, it was the question you asked in the beginning. Do you feel it? Do you, as a young African, feel like, I used to see that a lot of money is being lost in this, misinvoicing here. I used to feel as if in government contracts things are overpriced and they are not. Now I feel like we are moving in the right direction, because we must never forget we are talking about public funds. We are talking about funds which belong to Africans. Remember in the beginning we said Africa is rich, but Africans are poor. We are talking about the funds that must go towards making Africans less poor and making them rich in the same way that their continent is rich. So we need these citizens to be fully involved throughout the process, and our final check must be with the citizens.
Thank you for all these important information, because it's giving me hope.
Okay.
And now I have one last question, because I had the feeling that you sent a message to governments, to citizens. And here at Strategies, we mostly work with regional institutions also, but mostly with organizations in the development sector. So our development partners.
Yes.
We are working with them in projects.
Yes.
How could they contribute to state functionality within the projects that they are implementing in partnership with our government?
Great question. Because we could I think we could do another interview about that, because donor organizations can be part of the problem as well. At least, so let us take it from what they can do in order not to be part of the problem and to be part of the solution. Number one, I think we can look at them from the questions that we talked about at the end, the questions we should have in mind. The first one being the holistic strategy. Very often, donor organizations have development partners. They have money for one part of it. They don't have money for a holistic strategy. However, what they need to do is to make sure that government has a holistic strategy. This is the first support that must be given to government, is to develop a holistic strategy. Not one part of government by itself, not one department, but all of these multiple stakeholders that we have mentioned throughout, within government itself, and then with the other architects, civil society and private sector. So it is developing a holistic strategy, number one. Number two, donors need to make sure that their project, their program, is completely and seamlessly part of that holistic strategy. They cannot, for their own reasons, take government to be going to do something else over here, which is not a part of the strategy. So what we want development partners to do is, number one, help to build a holistic strategy. Number two, and please, development partners, don't build 15 million strategies, because that also happens. This donor comes, they build their own strategy. This other one comes, they build their own strategy. This one, and the government is sitting with 15 strategies for stopping IFFs. Each strategy is managed by a different person in the government. It simply doesn't make sense. And unfortunately, we do this a lot in development cooperation. One strategy everybody's project or program fits into that strategy.
And same indicators to evaluate.
Same indicators to evaluate, not 15 different indicators, right? Or sets of indicators. So it's very, very important to have that coordination at the strategic level. And then it is fine for this partner to support this program, this other partner to support this other part of the strategy. So that is number one. Number two for development partners is to ensure that we go beyond the talk of multi-stakeholder platforms, right? We go beyond ticking the box. Too often in development, we say, oh, multi-stakeholder platform, and then we just check. Oh, well, taxation was there, check. Customs was there, check. Parliament was there, check. Who was there from Parliament? Did they have the information in time? Do they have the capacity to be able to contribute? And then most importantly, have we worked with government to create the conditions so that these people can actually influence decisions? Or are we using them just to sign off on something which government by itself is going to be implementing? So these principles of good governance that we have put into place, they must, donors, development partners must help so that it is not just ticking the box and continuing on. The third and final point that I would bring is related to that. Development partners have the power, because very often they have the money, to ensure that marginalized actors are at the table, they have voice, and they build influence. So we have not talked a lot about women in illicit financial flows, but those are some of the groups that are suffering the most from illicit financial flows. Women, young people, people with disabilities. How are we making sure that they are informed on illicit financial flows, they are trained, and they are being brought to the table to be able to influence the decisions and develop the solutions together? If we don't, development partners can help us to open up space, so that other actors can come in and we can develop really collective power, collective action, collective accountability. If we cannot, and especially in this global environment, we talked about where the world is. We are living today in a world where the strong are just crushing the weak. We are establishing systems where whoever has the biggest gun is right. Right? It has nothing to do anymore with principles and so on. This is a time when at our local level in Africa, we must hang on to those principles. We must develop them, because we don't have the big gun. We don't have the might. So we need those principles. We need working on rights, working on the basis of rules, ensuring that people are included. We need that for our own success.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alice. I hope that I answered a few questions.
And also that you fulfilled my hope.
That's the most important part.
Thank you.